Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. This one's actually a sub-requested video, so I figured I would do this for the strategy series. This is going to be going over cards that can help you kind of counter Shenron. So you kind of have two big bads of the format. You have Storm, which can kill you incredibly quickly if your deck's not teched to kind of combat it. And if your deck is tech to combat that, you probably have some weaknesses against a deck that is like Shenron, specifically the Shenron variant that plays the Gogeta 7-drop that kind of wipes your hand. You can't do anything about it. But I'm going to give you guys some tips and strategies on really the best cards you can play to combat that. Before I get started with that, if you guys are new to the channel, hitting that subscribe button, giving this video a like would be super duper amazing of you. And if you guys are longtime fans of the channel, like what I do, you guys can check out my Patreon down in the description below to keep helping me do what it is I do. Thank you guys so much. Alright, without wasting any more time, we'll get into this video. You guys all know the Shenron leader does by now. Gains insane pluses on the front side, which allows him to set up for the kill shot, which in Shenron decks, usually going to be turns 4, 5, and 6. Sometimes it can be on 3 if they hit like double objection into things like at all cost Vegeta, the hand control version, the Gogeta 7 version where they kind of wipe your hand and try to get that thing triple attack, triple strike crit. So you got a couple different variants. These are going to be some well-rounded cards you guys can play that kind of help you against everything. So bear with me here. Number 1, Dark Power Black Mass Sand. This hurts a lot of the Child's Wish strategies. So effectively, if they Child's Wish anything out, the Shenron player is going to have to ditch 2 cards in their hand. So really good card, just to kind of floodgate them out. One thing to note about the 1-drops is that a lot of Shenron decks do play Crisis Crusher. And of course, there are answers to Crisis Crusher. You can play Sun Goten Family of Justice, or if your deck already has some built-in removal, you can play that. So that is something to keep in mind if you're going to go with a 1-drop oriented strategy to kind of counter the Shenron deck. But these are very good cards to play nonetheless, and you can play them at more opportune times. Maybe don't just play them turn 1 and just let them sit there to get blown up by a Crisis Crusher. Maybe play it on a turn where it's more relevant to hurting your opponent and they can't really afford to just drop the Crisis Crusher. So next up, Den new to the job. Most Shenron strategies do revolve around ramp. The only one I can think of that kind of doesn't is probably Shenron Veggies or Shenron Hand Control. And again, that depends on the variation. So Den new to the job can stifle a lot of the Gogeta 7 decks and a lot of the at all cost decks. Kami Global Unifier, really good against the hand control variants and the Shenron Veggie variants because they like to go wide and they want to punch you in the face a lot of times really fast. Group Leader Pilaf, really good against Shenron's ultimate ability, the ability to give things triple attack. Pilaf, even though it's a ability granted to the card, Pilaf can remove that ability so that it only gets 1 swing and then you don't have to deal with it anymore after that. Dimension Magic I have in here kind of representing free negates. So kind of what that allows you to do is a lot of these Shenron strategies, especially the at all cost Vegeta ones, they play Battering Laser to negate any negates that you might have to stop their kill shot. So let's say I'm sitting at like 6, 5, maybe 4 life and I'm playing free negates in my deck, which every color has access to. If your opponent goes for that kill shot or tries to set you up for that kill shot, you can negate, maybe play Dimension Magic by tapping energy. If they battering you and they make you tap out, essentially, you have more free negates to play, even if you're tapped out, which is really good. So on the first swing, they might battering, and 9 times out of 10, even probably more often than that, they're not going to have the second battering available to activate. They're either going to ditch the second battering off the first battering, or they're just not going to play more than 2, or they're not going to see the other one. Whatever the case may be, the odds are you're only getting battering once. So if you have multiple free negates to play, you're going to be in a good position. So that's one thing to consider. Mafuba, very similar to Pilaf, you just don't deal with the card. It can't swing again, and you just don't have to deal with it. And this is actually really good against the Gogeta 7 drop because you just don't have to deal with it again. Objection, I have this in here as a means to say that in Shenron Mirrors in particular, or any other deck that plays Objection to ramp, if you can ramp faster than your opponent, you can oftentimes get to your kill shot faster. So in Shenron Mirror matches or other decks that play a mid-range game, you sometimes do want to aim for that double objection play to get to your big play faster. For example, in a battle of the Gogeta 7s, whoever can drop the Gogeta 7 first will usually win because you randomize your opponent's hand only down to 3 cards. So something to keep in mind. King Yama Soul Supervisor. Not a lot of people know what this is, so I'm going to read it real quick. 2-drop auto. When you play this card, you may choose 2 non-black battle cards from your opponent's drop area, place them at the bottom of your deck, and draw 1 card. So I don't think this is necessarily the best answer to Shenron decks. Like, you can mess around with their Child's Wish strategies. You can mess around with what they can bring back off of World Peace, which, don't get me wrong, that can be good. And Yellow's getting one of these as well. And that's one of the reasons why I included this, is because it seems like this is how Bandai wants us to play around Shenron. I don't think it's necessarily the best way, but who knows, in future formats where they're more World Peace dependent, or maybe against a new Purunga deck, this is going to be a much better card. So something to keep in mind, something to keep in the back of your mind. Demon Sword Janemba is here to represent the mill decks. That's a decent strategy to play against Shenron. You know, they turbo their deck so much. You know, the leader inherently takes 7 cards out of the deck, and all 7 of those cards take another card out of the deck. So that's already 14, starting off with a 36 card deck. So Janemba, making your opponent mill 2 to 6 extra cards per turn. It's pretty easy to deck out Shenron players. Zeno the Playing God, like I said before, the Shenron leader just naturally pluses like crazy. So resetting the game, resetting the board, the game, and the hand size is really strong, because a lot of times they'll try and set up that 4-drop Shenron to give their kill shot crit. And if you can get that off the board with something like Chain Zeno or any kind of removal, realistically, that's pretty good. King Vegeta's Surprise Attack, I'm going to skip ahead to the Deadly Defender 18 to talk about these in tandem. So Deadly Defenders and Barrier Blockers are very, very good against Shenron win cons. You have to play essentially things with Barrier. You can't just play like the free blockers a lot of the time, or like any other types of blockers, because things like Adult Cost Vegeta have the ability to KO cards. And in any Gogeta 7 strategy, they're probably playing the Gogeta 5, so they can just remove them pretty easily. So that's why I put Barrier, the Deadly Defender here to represent Deadly Defenders and Barrier Blockers. And I put the green one specifically because it's a really cheap one you can drop for low energy. And paired with King Vegeta's Surprise Attack, you kill the thing on the first swing, because you know they might get ballsy and try to use that first swing to get over your Deadly Defender if it's a really tall threat, and then you King Vegeta's Surprise Attack it, and it's dead. You don't have to deal with it anymore, which is really good. Enraging Gohan Awakening is a card that green can play. It's almost like Mafuba, but in some instances kind of better. I mean, you do have to discard a card from your hand and tap 2 green, which can be tough. But if it goes through and resolves, you kill the threat. So this can get around some of the bigger threats that this thing might drop. Like if someone tries to go in with a Broly 6-drop with triple attack, or like a Adult Cost Vegeta, this can take care of that. Iron Hammer Justice Android 16. I did just mention that blockers without protection can kind of be a little bit faulty, but in certain instances, like if their win con is like the big Majin Buu, they don't really have a lot of removal, so this is a better option for a deck like that. And the fact that it has Revenge, it soaks up 1 attack and takes the attacker with it, and this is actually a good blocker against something like the Gogeta 7, because this will kill the Gogeta 7 if they didn't have a chance to remove it the turn prior. Then we have the Intensifying Power Trunks. So this is actually an interesting card. So if you're playing any of these 1-drop, you know, take a life crit attackers, or any of the cheap attackers that get big and take life, Shenron does not really have a way to remove these things turn 1 outside of Crisis Crusher. Any deck that's really maining Crisis Crusher is probably playing 2 to 3, and at that point, you know, they have it or they don't have it. But if you drop this thing and it lives, this thing will probably live 2 to 3 turns before Shenron can even deal with it. And that's 2 to 3 crit swings they either have to combo out of or just take to the face. And that can mean a lot over the course of a game. So I really like these cards in decks that go up against Shenron, especially when your opponent does not have the Crisis Crusher to answer them, because they'll realistically in Shenron they can live for a long amount of time. So I like them a lot. Revenge Deathball is another one I like. I like it a lot because it just creates a ginormous combo deficit between your opponent's attacking battle card and your leader. So like it creates like a 25k combo for 1 energy. And if you pair multiple of these on top of most things, like they don't have barrier, their opponent gives triple attack, this thing can KO them. So like 2 of these on a like Sankaba, your opponent gives triple attack, that it can KO it right there, right then and there. So that's pretty cool. Hidden Power Supreme Kai. I put this here to say that if you, in some instances, if you put your opponent down to low life, they can't get their strategy off. So Shenron deck, sometimes you want to back them into a corner. So if you can get them down to 2 life, they cannot possibly activate at all costs Vegeta to gain triple attack. They can't do it because they don't have enough life to pay, otherwise they kill themselves. And if you put your opponent down to 1, let's say you can't, for some reason, you can't get that kill shot off, but if you can force them down to 1, you know for a fact they cannot Gogeta 7 you on the following turn. So sometimes that's the route you gotta play for, especially if you know that's like the best play they have coming up, then that's what you play for. Crusher Ball, certain things can be Crusher Balled, like and that can stop them from being given triple attack for the turn, like at all cost Vegeta, Sankaba, the Majin Buu line, that stuff really good to hit with Crusher Ball. Cold Bloodlust, negating battle card effects, really good. Unfortunately, you can't hit the Gogeta 7. That card's broken. Hope it gets banned one of these days, because honestly, if Storm didn't exist, then the Shenron Gogeta variants may become the best deck in the format. Maybe a bold statement, but I mean, those are basically the 2 ends of the spectrum, right? Your deck's either, like I said before, geared to beat Storm, or your deck is geared to beat something like Gogeta Shenron. And if you take Storm out of the equation, then the Gogeta Shenron decks probably rise to the top. But in any case, Cold Bloodlust negating a lot of the big bombs, like the Buu line, like the hand control variants, and like Adult Cost Vegeta, very, very strong. Flying Nimbus, another negate that is almost like a peel off, sort of, kinda, you know, as long as it doesn't get battering lasered. You negate the first swing, they get one more swing, and you know for a fact that if you're, you know, let's say it's triple strike, if you're at more than 3 life, then that means they cannot possibly kill you. Like, it's impossible, because their leader can't swing, and they have to plow through 4 life or more with 1 triple strike. So unless they have some type of burn damage in effect, which there's no real way they're going to be able to do that, Flying Nimbus is pretty good. Battering laser, this is here so that if you're playing a yellow strategy, you can battering their battering, which can be very important. So you negate them, they battering your negate, and then you battering their battering, and then your negate resolves, which can be very clutch in certain Shenron matchups. Bardock the Progenitor, here to represent everyone's favorite deck, Storm. Storm does have like a 90-10 matchup against Shenron, so if you're looking to just stick it to those Shenron players, Storm is the deck for you to play. And the last negate we have is Time Magic. This seems like it was actually solely meant for Shenron decks. So this card, what it does is when you negate a swing, and it is another one of those free negates like I talked about before earlier in the video. So negate an attack, target anything that is already in rest mode, ignoring barrier, and it cannot untap for the rest of the turn. So really good against dual and triple attackers, and Shenron leader gives triple attack. So almost like a peel off and a Mafuba, kind of serves the same purpose, which is really good. And then a nifty little card, something you'll probably realistically never use against a Shenron deck, but it is there. King Cold, Father of the Emperor. So this is cool because it comes down, it counters the attack, and then the attacking card is forced to swing into this. So as long as you have the card and your opponent doesn't have the battering laser, and you have the energy to pay for it, your opponent's battle card's forced to swing into this, and then it will die, just like any other revenge card. But what's really cool is that, like, this is one of the very minute ways to deal with Gogeta 7. So something to definitely keep in mind. So guys, that's going to be the video on the cards that I found that you can use to counter Shenron. A lot of these have a lot of success against Shenron, some more than others. Some, it depends if you have the battering laser. And unfortunately, against Gogeta 7, there's not too much you can do. But I hope that this video was informative to you guys, gave you some tips and strategies to help combat Shenron at your locals or at regionals coming up. So if you guys like this video, dropping a like would be super duper dope. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Joey. This is Crossroad TCG, and I will see you next time.